Now, the time is 17 minutes to midday. Let's talk about students now. There's been a warning that university graduates will soon be hit with interest rates of up to 12% on their student loans. We can hear now from some students about how they feel about the news. This is Rebecca, Georgia and Arthur. Rebecca and Georgia have completed their undergraduates and are looking at masters, and Arthur's going into his third year.
It just feels like the student constantly gets punished under this government. Already graduates will be walking into higher energy bills, like higher tax all around, higher living costs. And now, to be faced with this news is just incredibly disappointing. It not only affects graduates, that leave university, it also turn away so many people who have been considering university but are sort of on the edge because they're concerned about the cost, because the debt that comes with university already is so high. Nobody want to walk into sort of higher interest rates that just keep building and building and building, and it feels like you can never come out of that debt. The government is saying it's sort of like a temporary interest spike, but that's still not reassuring enough for students who are already struggling with debt and just need a bit of support from the government, really.
I'm not quite sure that the government's new interest hike will do anything specific to deter people from applying to university. So prior to the current reforms, only a quarter of people were expected to pay back the full loan amount anyway. And I think really the bigger question for young people is, what are the graduate outcomes for programmes they're interested in? And is it really necessary for their career goals to go to university? And I think another issue is cost of living issues outside of student debt. Student debt and student loans, whether that be how they're going to support themselves while they're at university or afterwards. Things like rent, gas, electricity bills are much more of a preoccupation to students and recent graduates like myself than student loan payments, which of course, no one likes to pay bills, but it's a very small amount compared to our other obligations, including tax rises, of course, council tax and national insurance going up.
I'm really quite shocked to hear that the student loan interest rate is going up to 12%, and shocked that the government are even considering doing something like that. Tax hikes elsewhere are understandable, although taxing those who aren't even in the workplace yet is quite frankly audacious. And there's talk of introducing a cap next year at some point, but the cap needs to be introduced now. It's too late introducing it next year. The government might be listing COVID as an excuse to, introduce these increases. Although we're looking at people here who have already suffered from COVID implications last year by paying £9,000 a term for essentially a glorified Netflix subscription service. And this is presumably going to be alongside the increased Bank of England inflation rates as well. So you'll have an entire generation of people who will be bearing the brunt of COVID financial recovery schemes, hit with unnecessary interest rate increases and taxes on top of that. And the government can't really expect the country to bounce back, as it were, by hitting the people who are meant to be making that recovery happen. And to be completely honest with you, if I'd have been told this in September 2020, I wouldn't have bothered going. The financial burden is just really not worth it.
Well, that was Arthur, Georgia and Rebecca talking to us a little earlier.